for a border wall. During a House GOP press conference today, Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming called on House funds. A pro-Israel advocate is praising the Trump administration for officially pulling out of a UN agency that is anti-Israel. Chad Groening has more.
On New Year's Day, the United States joined Israel in officially quitting the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. Departing U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley tweeted, quote, UNESCO is among the most corrupt and politically biased UN agencies. Today, the U.S. withdrawal from this cesspool became official. The Trump administration had filed its notice to withdraw in October 2017 from UNESCO, and the administration of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu followed suit. Lori Cardozo-Moore is president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations and serves as a special envoy for the World Council of Independent Christian Churches at the UN.
I'm not surprised that this is going on, but it was great to see that the former ambassador decided to send a tweet out to condemn UNESCO and call them out again. And God willing, more governments like the United States will also pull funding.
Cardozo-Moore says one of the most egregious actions by UNESCO has involved the renaming of ancient Jewish and Christian historic sites.
Instead of using the Hebrew name of the sites, they use Arab names of the sites. And this, of course, is a huge problem because they're basically rewriting history. This is revisionist history at its worst.
I'm Chad Groening.
Prosecutors in Los Angeles are suing the Weather Channel to stop it from tracking the whereabouts of app users and selling the data to third parties. City Attorney Michael Feuer says users of the popular app are misled to think their location data will only be used for personalized forecasts and alerts. Feuer says the Weather Channel intentionally obscured its motives in a lengthy privacy policy that got 4/5 of users to agree to share geolocation data. The lawsuit comes as companies such as Facebook and Google are under fire for sharing users' information. Marriott now says that fewer guests were affected by a massive data breach last year. Details from Fox's Hillary Barsky.
The world's largest hotel chain now believes that about 383 million guests were involved, which is less than the 500 million it originally reported. This after an internal and external forensics investigation, but it's still one of the largest security breaches on record. However, over 5.2 million unencrypted passport numbers were compromised, which has raised alarms among security experts because of their value to state intelligence agencies. The affected hotel brands were operated by Starwood before it was acquired by Marriott back in 2016. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
In 7 years after Washington legalized the adult use of marijuana, Governor Jay Inslee says he plans to pardon thousands of convictions for misdemeanor pot possession. The Democrat, who is mulling a 2020 presidential run, made the announcement today at a cannabis industry summit. Find more news at onenewsnow.com.
Abraham Hamilton III.
God put us in this world at this time to be salt and light. We don't fold because of the darkness that we're facing. This is not the first time in the world's history that it's gotten dark. God has called you and I to be his ambassadors, even in this dark moment.
Tune in to the Hamilton Quarter, weekdays at 5 p.m. Central on Urban Family Talk. She's sharp, pointed, and insightful. This is Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
He was endorsing me. I wasn't endorsing him. And I haven't decided who I'm going to endorse in 2020. I'm going to wait and see what the alternatives are. But I pointed out there are places where we agree on a whole series of policy fronts.
I get along fine with the president, but I do have policy disagreements. I have not been afraid ever to challenge the president. In fact, if you look at the voting records, I am more independent than any other Republican in the Senate. But yet I keep good relations with the president because I respect the office, I respect the president, Donald Trump, and I try to work with him to try to get good things done for the country and for my state.
The people of this country elected us to work. It is time the Democrats got to work. Stop with the partisanship. Stop focusing on 2020. You listen, Brian, it's like, everybody around here is focused on 2020 and the Democrats running for president. They need to do their jobs right now.
And now, Stacey Washington.
Okay, it's Friday, and it's a super exciting day to be alive and in the service of the King. Come on. We are going to have a fantastic show today. We are going to speak with, just up next segment, Brigitte Gabriel. She's going to be with us talking about activism and her new book, Rise, and so much more. She's a terrorism expert, chairman of Act for America, and it's the largest grassroots, national security organization in the country. And so we're going to be chatting with her. You know, she's been on the show before. We love Brigitte, and we can't wait to speak to her again today. And so that's going to be part of the show. You are a part of the show today. It's Friday, so you can call in and talk about whatever you want. You can bring up any topic, and we're going to hit it and talk about it. And I'm so excited about that. The call lines are open at 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. And if we have time, I'll go into the ridiculous adventure that I went on yesterday, thinking that I thought I was about to die. Ended up in the emergency room and hung out there for, just hours and hours and hours, only to find out that I'm going to live. Praise God, but I'm going to live. So we'll go into that a little bit. Still having a couple of issues over here, but still super excited to be live and direct to you on the radio, on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk. Go to afr.net and urbanfamilytalk.com to find out more about what we're doing here, the ministry work and all of that. And we're so excited to have you and your ears, or if you're watching on the live stream, your eyeballs as well. Thank you for being here today. So let's first get into the daily confession. And I got to say, it gets me pumped up when I read the Psalms. And so today it's Psalm 34, King James Version. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. Humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all of my fears. They looked unto him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps round about those that fear him and delivers them. One more time. The angel of the Lord camps around those that fear him and delivers them all. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusts in him. Oh, fear the Lord, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing. Come, ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. What man is he that desires life and loves many days, that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking guile. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry. The face of the Lord is against them that do evil. In spite of what we see, in spite of what you see going on, in spite of all of that, the face of the Lord is against the evildoer. Back to the scripture, 17. The righteous cry, and the Lord hears and delivers them out of all of their troubles. The Lord is nigh unto them that are broken-hearted, and saves such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. He keeps all his bones, not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous will be desolate. The Lord redeems the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him will be desolate. Amen to that. And I just encourage you over the weekend, as you unplug from your devices and your social media, and you turn off your Facebook and you log out of Twitter, and you get away from everything that has anything to do with screens, and you get in the faces of your loved ones and your friends, and you get to doing whatever it is that you have to do this weekend, I encourage you to put the praises of God on your mouth and to lift his name up. Whatever the circumstance that you're facing, praise will get you in the right mind frame, in the right mindset to be able to hear from the Lord so that he can deliver you out of your troubles. And I say that because I've just had a really wonderful past, I'd say maybe almost 7 days of just praise and worship, worshiping the Lord with really old music it's no longer in vogue. It's no longer popular. Now it's all Christian contemporary all the time. But I found some hymns from when I was a kid, and we used to go to Pentecostal church because as a military family, we used to move around a lot. And so whatever church we found that we could plug into, we would. And it was just such a blessing. And I heard one song, which prompted me to look it up on YouTube. And then I looked that song up, and you know how it suggests other songs, and I listened to some others, and I remembered, and this is from when I was 6 or 7 years old, so it's not always that you can remember everything about that time, but I remember these songs, and Pentecostal church, when you get happy, the people run up and down the aisles. I remember people running up and down the aisles and just having a good time, and I've just been listening to those songs. I even went so far as to get a couple of them, 4 of them on iTunes for my phone, and it's just been a wonderful time. And then, of course, Psalm 34, and I was reading for my BSF homework, which I'm kind of redoing for a couple weeks before we get back into session. And I was reading about David running away from Saul and eating the showbread, and really he was lying. He was trying to save his life. And I read some commentary about it and how we're not supposed to emulate that. We're not supposed to be lying or doing those things, but it just shows how far we will go to protect ourselves when we're desperate. And remember, David was a man after God's own heart, someone that the Lord loved dearly, and he even made mistakes. And so it just kind of spoke to my spirit that even in the midst of me making a mistake or an error, God still has a plan for me, and that he is going to fulfill that plan. And that in the Bible, over and over and over again, it tells us that God inhabits the praises of his children. He dwells in that place. And so when we lift our voices up to him, or we speak psalms back to him and praise him, that's where he can move in our situation and lift our heart so that we can endure. So take that with you for the weekend. All right. I actually have a little snippet of audio about Romney saying he's not running against Donald Trump in 2020. And you better believe I'm holding mittens to that. But I see the phone lines are lit up, and it's Friday, and I want to talk to you, the listener, my favorite people, besides Roddy, Maya, Madison, and Miles, besides those ones, and Bentley. So let's go to the phones. Jacob in Mobile, Alabama. Jacob, thank you for calling in today. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How you doing, sister?
Doing pretty good.
All right. I got a little bit for you. They hung up on me on the other line, on the other show just before you.
Oh.
Yeah, they did. Because what it boils down to, I was sharing with them, I said, look, what it boils down to, this country does not belong to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock. It belongs to the Lord. He actually had his hand on this country because we should not have won the Revolutionary War or the War of 1812. We was outnumbered basically 1,000 to 1. And the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution is just like the Bible. God's hand is on those things. Those men were not so wise that they knew what to do. They were wise because the Lord's hand was on them. They were anointed. And those are the anointed documents, And they hung up on me.
I'm sure that was just a technical glitch, but I agree with you and your sentiments, and I think that reminds me, Jacob, of a friend, so dear friend of mine and her best friend, two good friends of mine, good, strong Christian women. They took a little, I don't know if you call it a girls' trip because they took their sons, but they went to Washington, D.C., and as a part of all of the touring that they did, they went to the Museum of the Bible. And in the Museum of the Bible, they actually have a place where you can watch, and it takes you on this tour, and this huge screen is in front of you, and it takes you on this aerial tour where you kind of dive in and out of the buildings that are in Washington, D.C., and they show you every single place where a building in Washington, D.C. exalts the name of the Lord, where God, praise God, the Most High, all of the things that we know as praises to God, acknowledgments of him, are engraved on these buildings. In the cornerstones, on the roofs of these buildings, all over Washington, D.C., our buildings cry out in praise to God. And so what you're saying just reminds me of that we can't get too far away from our Judeo-Christian founding here in this country, because even our buildings cry out in praise to our Father.
I got one other thing, if you got a little
go ahead.
Small script for you. Okay, this is the 14th chapter of 2 Chronicles. And it says this. Let me make sure I got it exactly correct so I don't mess up any words. He says, Lord, there is no one like you to help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, Lord, our God, for we rely on you. And in your name we have come against this vast army. Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere mortals prevail against you. A lot of times we have the founding fathers and other people built up. It's not about them. All of us understand we are vessels of the Lord, and the praise and the glory Martin Luther King, the same thing. They got people lifted up above God. They were instruments of God.
Amen.
And once we understand that, he can bless us appropriately.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jacob, for calling and for sharing those scriptures with us. It's always great to chat with you. Let's go to Randy in Missouri. Randy, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I wanted to chime in on a story that was kind of missed in the media during holiday week. The Daily Caller wrote about 2 or 3 articles about it, and it was about an IT company by the name of New Knowledge, and they were involved in interfering with the special election last year in Alabama with Judge Roy Moore. Mm. And it seems that the company that was commissioned by the Senate Intelligence Committee to watch out for Russian bots and fake news on the media, on social media and websites, was actually producing Russian bots to interfere with the election. So I guess this was a Washington Post article as well. And gosh, lo and behold, the co-founders of this New Knowledge company, Jonathan Morgan and Renee DeRista, turns out that they were working under Hillary Clinton in a cyber initiative part of the State Department when she was Secretary of State.
And, so I have a letter, an open letter from Doug Ross that dovetails into that, and I encourage you to listen in on the third segment. When we come back, I'm going to be sharing that open letter, and it touches on just what you're talking about, the corruption of the Clintons, and how the president can use that to kind of change the nature of the way the House is going to be dealing with him now that it's controlled by Democrats. Thank you so much, Randy, for calling and mentioning that. We probably have less than a minute left. Hans in Manhattan, Kansas. Thank you for calling the show. What's your comment? You got to be quick, though.
Hi. I listen to AFR a lot more these days, and I have in the last couple of weeks especially. And I guess I'm a little discouraged because I know that especially politically speaking, when people talk about, if the president's not able to get the wall up, he loses the next election. And I think what I'd like to hear, and I know it may not be right, but as Christians, even though the man may not be able to get the wall, as we call it, the wall or whatever, I think that if we were to not be part of not voting him back in, to try to see what else God can do through him would be just a wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think people are saying that because they want to spur the president to stay the course and to not give up. I can tell you, I would be very frustrated if the president gave up at this point. He's already into the shutdown. Now it's time to knuckle down and gut it out. But I have to say, Hans, I agree with you. If the choice is Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or, Biden or something like that and Donald Trump, I'm Trump all day. I'll have my signs out. I'll be working to reelect him. And that is going to be where I'm coming from, because the Democrats' party platform is untenable for someone who is an active, fundamental Christian, someone who truly believes the Word of God is the Word of God, and it is true, and it is mighty and powerful, and operating in our lives today, someone with a biblical worldview. If you're presented with the Democrat Party platform and Donald Trump, well, the choice, it's not really a choice. You only have one place you can go. All right, when we get back, we're going to have Brigitte Gabriel, terrorism expert and chairman of Act for America. Stay right there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. You can't squeeze more into 3 days than we will in Washington, D.C. on our Spiritual Heritage Tour. In June and in September, we're going to the Capitol, the Library of Congress, the Supreme Court, the Lincoln Memorial, the Korean and Vietnam Memorials, the Iwo Jima Memorial, the Arlington National Cemetery, the White House, that's outside, Jefferson Memorial, and the National Archives, and we're going to Mount Vernon on that Saturday of our tour. So much to see, so much to do, and it includes lectures and talks from Stephen McDowell, who will be our historian along the way. For more information on these June or September Spiritual Heritage Tours and the separate tour to Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown, for all the information on this, go to spiritualheritagetours.com. That's spiritualheritagetours.com.
Hi, I'm Crawford Loritz with A Legacy Moment. I have a friend who saw a lot of combat in Vietnam. In fact, he was severely wounded and highly decorated for his valor in combat. I remember asking him once what it was like to constantly be in harm's way. He said, besides being scared to death most of the time, we realized we needed each other, and so we tended to focus on what was really important. We watched each other's backs. Guys prayed who would otherwise never even mention God's name. Under pressure, under those dangerous circumstances, we realized that we held each other's lives literally in our hands. I sometimes feel as if the Church of Jesus Christ in this country is not desperate enough. We don't seem to sense an utter need for God and our need for each other. People are dying all around us. The work of God shouldn't be something we do on the backstroke. It's serious business. We desperately and urgently need Him because we can't change lives. Only He can. The early disciples were seized with this sense of urgency, this passionate cry to God in utter dependence. In Acts chapter 1, Jesus has ascended. He's in heaven, and now the task is before them. Listen to these words in Acts chapter 1, verse 14. All these with one accord were devoting themselves to prayer, together with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. This is in the context of urgency. They were continually devoting themselves to prayer because these early followers were desperate. They saw the tremendous need for unity and persistent prevailing prayer. Here's what I want you to remember today. Ask God to show you the urgent, desperate need of the people all around you. Ask Him to give you a burden to pray and a heart for unity.
Join Crawford Loritz tomorrow for another Legacy Moment.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button over at Stacy on the Right. The revamp is almost finished, and we're going to take that new site live, and we'll be live streaming to there. And I'm going to be asking some kind of poll type questions about what type of content you'd like to see and how frequently you'd like to be notified about it. And the only way I can ask you those questions is if you subscribe. So you are welcome to go over, and I don't have to worry about Facebook or Twitter or YouTube tamping down on my numbers and limiting the reach of what I'm able to get out content-wise on my own blog site, which I've had up and running for years. And so we want to grow over there. And not that we won't still be on the social media sites, we will, but we don't want to be at their mercy. We want to have our own place, our own home where we can have this content, and that's going to be so fantastic. So hit the subscribe button, and we'll be so grateful to have your information, which we do not use to solicit items. It's only for the newsletter or for notifications about the show. So thank you so much for doing that. And welcome back to American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk. So right now, it's my pleasure to welcome Brigitte Gabriel. She's a terrorism expert, chairman of Act for America. The website's actforamerica.org. This organization is the largest national security grassroots org in the U.S., and she's the author of her latest book, Rise, which I have to tell you, it's pretty fantastic. You've got to get your hands on that book. It's everywhere now. You can find it at all locations. Right now, welcome with me, Brigitte Gabriel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Stacey. I'm delighted to be with you. I'm sitting here looking at your beautiful picture on your website.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I know you have an amazing amount of reach with the people that you're talking to on a daily basis with your books and with your activism. And one of the things that I think people are kind of taking for granted, all of us, we have to vote, we have to do the things that are important, obviously participating in politics, but not letting it reign over us. But right now we have this situation, Brigitte, at the southern border where we're allowing our southern border to be an entry point for terrorists. And you're an expert in this area. You know where the terrorists are coming in. You know why they're doing what they're doing. And you know the precursors to all of this. Talk to us about the activism that we should be participating in and how this dovetails.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, watching what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now and the debate about the border, to be a wake-up call to every American to understand that this is our time. This is our opportunity to stand firm to secure our country, because we are talking about preserving our national identity. Preserving and protecting our border security is so important on so many levels, Stacey, because right now we are seeing America's enemies come together, whether the terrorists or the drug cartels or the human traffickers. They all have a common interest, and their common interest right now is coming together and making sure they can fight the American public on how they can break into our home, break into our country to continue doing their bad deeds, whether it's trafficking children, whether it's bringing drugs and poisoning our children with drugs, or for the terrorists who are wanting to sneak here to set up cells so they can attack our country. And this is why it's important to become active. And I have to say something here. I know a lot of people are depressed thinking, oh, my gosh, Brigitte, look what just happened in D.C. yesterday. We have Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. The left is already declaring war on America. Nothing is going to change. And I tell them, this is now the opportunity to become active, to become engaged, because a lot of people for the last 2 years took it for granted and that President Trump is president, and they decided, oh, now we can sit and relax and we don't have to do anything because President Trump is going to take care of everything. What happened yesterday is a wake-up call to understand that you have to be active and engaged at all times to make sure we protect and preserve our country.
And so you just encapsulated that so well. I know the tendency is, Brigitte, oh, well, you know what? We lost the House. Now we have Nancy Pelosi, and people get discouraged. But I don't feel discouraged at all. I think Nancy Pelosi will be a determining factor in reelecting President Trump. I think she's actually going to pave the way, and the Democrats who are going to be vying for the nomination are going to be the ones who put the nails in the coffin, because Democrats always overreach. The other issue that is really, it's almost everything we have to talk about right now, bigger than the budget, bigger than our foreign policy, is what you just outlined with the southern border. And it's not that other terrorism isn't, going on and our FBI and agencies aren't fighting it. But, Brigitte, how do we communicate to people in our lives who these are not our enemies, but they're clearly misguided on immigration, and they really have this idea that it's not that big of a deal? How do we communicate to them, look, this is a big deal? I mean, I guess we could buy your book and hand that to them, but what do we say? How do we get this out there?
This is a huge deal because we know, for example, terrorists are coming through our border because we know that Iran has set up Hezbollah training and command center in Central and South America, especially in the tri-states, training people on how to speak even little Spanish so they can blend in and come into our country. Look what we are dealing with Iran right now. Iran is trying to develop nuclear bombs. We are tightening the sanctions again on Iran under President Trump. Can you imagine Iran setting up cells within our own country to attack our country if it gets to the point where we cannot see eye to eye and their goal is to destroy us? We are not only worried about the terrorists, but we are also worrying about the terrorists working with the drug cartels, because right now Hezbollah has taught the drug cartels how to dig up tunnels into the United States. They are explaining to them and teaching them on tunnel technology, which the terrorists have perfected in Lebanon between Lebanon and Israel. They are now teaching the same thing to the drug cartels because it's a win-win situation for both. The drug cartels will be able to smuggle drugs into the United States, and the terrorists will be able to also use the tunnels to smuggle terrorists into the United States. Our children's lives are at risk. Our children's lives are at risk not just because of terrorism, but also because of the drug problem, also because of the human traffickers. This is a major problem that we need to understand, that if we want to preserve our culture and protect our children, we must secure our border and we must shut down the border. Those who want to come to the United States legally, there are plenty of ways for them to come. Look, Stacey, I am a legal immigrant to the United States. I came here legally. I went through the proper channels. I went first and got a visa to the United States. Once I got the visa, I went and applied to be here as a citizen. I had to study. I paid for my own airline ticket. I paid for my attorneys to do my papers. I even went and had all the blood tests done, which I paid for gladly, because any immigrant who is coming to the United States, they make sure that you take the test so you are not bringing with you any infectious diseases to the United States like tuberculosis and leprosy, etc. And then I had to study a 2-inch thick book written by the Daughters of the American Revolution about America's history, America's Constitution, our judiciary system. And then I had to pass a written exam as well as a verbal exam in English about all that I have studied and passed in order for me to become an American. Those are the type of immigrants that we need to come here. There are processes to enter the United States. When you look at, for example, the caravan and all those people who were trying to cross from Mexico into the United States, they have literally bypassed the UN centers where you can apply for political asylum and came straight to America, ignoring the proper process to apply for citizenship. Even Mexico offered them jobs and offered them political asylum, but they turned it down because they were not interested in that. So that tells us that whoever is coming to the United States right now through our Mexican border is breaking the law because they are not interested in obeying the laws to come here and go through the proper channel. And if those people are breaking the law as criminals without any regard to law and order, what type of citizens do you think they're going to be when they enter the United States? These are facts that every American needs to understand. I lay out these facts in my book, Rise, and I encourage every person listening to get the book Rise and read it. You need to understand what's at stake. And I also encourage people to go to our website, actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org, and join us. Click on Contact Congress. You enter your name, your zip code. We give you the names of your elected officials in Congress. They need to hear from you. We give you their name, their phone number, their email, their address. With a click of a button, you can send a letter to them. All you have to do is just press a button, and we populate it for you. You don't even have to think about writing it. They need to hear from you every single day about the border situation. Your member of Congress needs to understand that you as a constituent is very concerned about this issue and that you want them to pass a bill that will give the funding to secure the border. You need to send an email every single day if you have to. If you do not want to call them, send them an email. We make it very easy for you. Go to actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org, and make sure you call your member of Congress. You have access to the book Rise as well when you are on the website. You can read all about it. We need every single person engaged and involved.
So first thing I have to say before I get to my next question is one of our best gets for immigration, in my opinion, is when they approved your application to become an American citizen because of the impact you've been able to have and the truth that you're continually speaking. I'm so glad you're my American sister because it just takes legal immigration and then all of a sudden we're all a part of the same family. But I have to say, and I want to ask you this in all sincerity, Brigitte, how many Brigitte Gabriels are still waiting to enter our country lawfully as 55,000 some criminals, some, whatever, what have you, they're lawbreakers, all of them, are coming in across the border every month, 55,000 a month. And we have Brigitte Gabriels all over the world going through the process lawfully, waiting, paying lots of money, learning, studying the book, all of that. And they're not getting in. They're waiting while these others are just simply streaming in here.
Exactly. There are many of them. There are many of us. I know for fact 3 people right now whose application has been just waiting for years. It's been 7 years, and they're not approved to come here as citizens. It is mind-boggling to me that we turn people down who should be here. Look, for example, also about, bringing in people who are really politically persecuted. We have a petition on our website for Asia Bibi. Remember that Christian in Pakistan who was on death row, and finally they released her for false allegations? Nobody wants to take her in. Her life is in danger. Her Muslim neighbors are knocking on doors wanting to kill her. Her only crime was that she was a Christian, and they accused her of blasphemy. This is the type of person we need to give political asylum to and let her come to the United States with her family. There are plenty of amazing people who can contribute so much to our society, who deserve the citizenship, but you know what? They are doing it the right way. They are applying. They are waiting. They are studying. They are spending their own money. And you know why it is good to give citizenship to people who are doing it the right way? Because when we were applying to become citizens, like myself, we didn't break the law. I made sure I didn't even get a traffic ticket because I wanted to prove to the American public that I was worthy of being welcomed into this country and worthy to have the right and be granted the privilege of the American citizenship. We obey the law. We pay our taxes. We stay out of trouble. We make sure we become productive citizens of this country who pay our taxes and contribute to American society. And immigrants like me, Stacey, are offended, are insulted, feel it's a slap in the face when we see our elected officials basically lobbying and standing on the side of criminals who want to come speak in defense of that, quote, right of the criminal aliens who are breaking the law to come here, we feel offended and insulted. And I can tell you, as a legal immigrant, I have a lot of friends who are legal immigrants. We are all disgusted watching what's happening on television right now and what's happening at our southern border. And I can tell you, every single person who came to this country legally does not want any illegal criminal alien to break the law and come to this country and have the same privilege and the same rights that we work so hard to have. This is why I'm so passionate about this issue. And this is exactly why I work so hard through my organization, Act for America, to secure America, to keep America safe and secure and great and prosperous. And I urge people who are listening to this broadcast, if this message resonates with you, join us. Go to actforamerica.org and sign up to join us. Become an activist. Start a chapter in your community. If there's no chapter in your community, join a chapter. We will train you. We will mentor you. We are the largest citizen activist organization in the country, grassroots organization. And right now, Stacey, I have to tell you, I am so excited that the Democrats are in control in Congress because that's what lights the fire under the grassroots who were apathetic and asleep for the last 2 years, who thought we were on easy street. Now is the time to organize, to mobilize, to dedicate ourselves, and to be engaged to protecting our nation.
I couldn't have said it better. And I know it's kind of antithetical. I mean, for us to say, you know, sometimes you need to lose so you can get, you know, wake your butts up and get in gear and start doing something. But that is kind of the case here when we see it. You're talking about going to actforamerica.org and emailing. This is not This is not difficult. This is not hard stuff. I'm saying go to the Act for America site, get the book, or the next time you're at Barnes & Noble's, get the book. I love to see their faces when I pick up a book like yours or Ann Coulter's, and I pick it up and I buy it, and the people are looking at me like, what are you doing buying this book? And I'm looking back like, you better buy it too. Get with the program. This is what's happening right now, is educating ourselves. And so I encourage people to do it. And we only have ourselves to thank for the government that we have, right, Brigitte? We only have ourselves to thank. I'll give you the last 30 seconds and anything you want to say to the listeners to get this thing through.
Always remember, 2% of the passionate will always rule the 98% indifferent. 2% of the passionate will always rule the 98% indifferent. Be one of the 2%. Be the passionate that makes a change. We don't need a lot of people to make a change. We only need people who are on fire for our country, who love God, who love our country, who honor and cherish the memory of our founding fathers and everything they worked so hard to give us this great nation that we have today. The least we can do is protect it for the next generation. Go to our website, actforamerica.org, sign up to get our emails and action alerts, contact your members of Congress, and there you can get my book, Rise. Instead of going to Barnes & Noble, go to our website for a tax-deductible donation to Act for America. We will send you an autographed book. You will be able to help our work and our organization and also get educated at the same time.
Do it there. Buy it at actforamerica.org and help fund this movement. The activism that we do prevents the losses that we see in Washington, D.C. That's Brigitte Gabriel, terrorism expert, chairman of actforamerica.org, and friend of the show. We are so grateful for your time today. Thank you. Speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, we'll be back with more your calls right after this.
I just thank God for the Holy Ghost. If you will let him, he really will teach you all things. Have you ever made an excuse to someone why you were unable to do something or why you couldn't attend a certain event instead of just being honest and telling them you just were not interested? I think many of us have. Well, that's lying. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 17 says, an honest witness tells the truth. A false witness tells lies. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 1 in one translation says, dishonesty in business disgusts the eternal. It disgusts God. But fair dealing delights him. False witness utters lies. Be faithful and consistent with being honest with others. Stop with the excuses and be truthful. There is freedom when our integrity and character reflects our Savior Jesus Christ. What seems little to us are big to him. With a heart for the urban family, I'm today's urban woman, Victory McIntosh. Connect with us more at urbanfamilytalk.com.
And my father, your great-grandfather, fought in World War II.
Really?
He was a gunner on the big ship out in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Your great-grandmother did her part, too.
Was she on a ship?
Oh, no. She stayed back home. She and a lot of her friends worked really hard in a factory because the men had gone off to war.
Ooh.
And they held scrap metal drives to help in the war effort. The folks back home were heroes, too.
Here at the American Family Association, we consider you the heroes back home. As you fulfill your responsibility of caring for your family day to day, your partnership with us is crucial as we fight the enemies of freedom in America. Thank you for your commitment to the American Family Association.
Grandpa, what's a scrap metal drive?
Let's get some cookies, and I'll tell you all about it.
Saving you money. I'm Linda Bell with the Fox Business Network. After splurging on holiday gifts, now it's time to get your finances in order. Personal finance advisor Nicole Lappin recommends a spending plan focused on the 3 E's: essentials, endgame, and extras.
70% of your overall budget should go to the essentials, the basic stuff you need. The food, transportation, utilities, insurances. Then 15% should go to the end game. So that's your future self. So your savings accounts, your retirement accounts, your investment accounts. And then 15% should go to those extras. It could be your mani-pedi. It could be your cocktail.
She says setting aside that extra money in your budget will prevent you from binging later on.
A lot of financial experts will tell you to go on a really strict budget and cut out the morning latte and all the extra small indulgences. That's honestly not sustainable.
Lappin recommends reviewing your spending plan once a quarter to make sure you're on track. Saving you money. I'm Linda Bell, Fox News.
Welcome back to Stacey on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
You know, I think it's a great question. It's potentially because she's very progressive, maybe a little too progressive even for Massachusetts. But it should be said that Sherrod Brown in Ohio has a long progressive record, and he actually outperformed how House Democrats did. It could also be the case that maybe there's just something about her personally that voters don't like. I should point out, of course, this is just one way to look at electability, right? We're going to have a case. Elizabeth Warren, the rest of the Democrats are going to perform in many debates, and we'll see how she does in that particular case. But I will say that when you look at how Massachusetts voters view Elizabeth Warren, whether it be in her reelection margin or where they place her in early primary polls where she's running third or fourth, despite the fact that Massachusetts Democrats know her very, very well, I think if you were to project that out and say, hey, these Massachusetts voters who know her best don't like her in comparison as much as the other Democrats, it's a warning sign to me.
Okay, so that was a CNN analyst talking about Elizabeth Warren, and they have him on a lot, and he tends to have a really an interesting perspective, in my opinion. Welcome back to the show. I have to say, wasn't Brigitte Gabriel fantastic? That woman is passionate, and you can hear it in her voice, and you know it's coming from a place of, you know, when she describes the process of studying that book, she's not, this isn't like stuff she's making up to sound awesome. She's talking about her real experiences, and I can't tell you how much I love it because I've been abroad. I have been to so many different foreign countries, and universally, obviously this wasn't last year, so I don't know what the foreign outlook is since the election of President Trump. And a lot of foreigners are duped in by our mainstream media to think that most Americans don't like the president. But the fact is, foreigners love plain speaking. They love someone who shoots from the hip. If you're a hardcore leftist activist, you're not going to like Donald Trump. But if you live abroad and you want to see a strong America, then you're going to adore the fact that we now have a president who likes this country, who likes the people who live in this country, whether you wear Walmart jeans and overalls or you're dressed to the nines from haute couture from some, fashion house. Someone who likes all Americans and wants to see us all do well is going to be much more well received abroad than someone who, Mr. Obama, Bauer, and Scraper are us, a man who didn't know anybody he wouldn't bow down to in the foreign policy realm. The difference is stark. And so I think every place I've ever been, when they find out you're an American and they talk to you, well, they ask questions about our states because it's hard for them to mentally get their heads around the size of our states because, most European nations are very, very small, comparatively speaking. The whole nation is the size of one of our states. And so when they think about like the city of St. Louis and they think it's such a tiny place, when in reality, St. Louis, the metro region, is bigger than one of their states. They're states that they have in their whole country. And so they often will ask questions about, geographically speaking, or what different states are like. But they also have, it's just a fascination with the way we are as a people group. This idea that we're all brothers and sisters and we're all Americans, no matter what kind of tan we're sporting, no matter what country we originate from, that once we're here, we're all Americans. It's still something that they ponder over it and they try to understand it the same way that we try to understand some of their cultural norms. And so there's a lot of respect for America abroad. And they know that our economic engine, our GDP, it helps fuel all of the good things that are going on in their country through our partnerships. So I find it fascinating that over here, we continue to put up as candidates from one political side these people who want to see the American experiment destroyed. Elizabeth Warren, she hates all the major industry. She hates the pharmaceutical industry. She hates business, big business. She hates the banking industry. I mean, she is a piece of, what is that stuff? It's not toffee. It's those truffles. Okay, you've had them. You know what I'm talking about. Elizabeth Warren is one of those Lintner truffles that it melts in your mouth. It's just, she is the piece of candy Donald Trump is waiting to eat for 2020. Because every time she opens her mouth, she insults swaths of Americans who work for these industries. If you work in healthcare, she's out to get your job. She wants to put single payer in effect and put you out of a job. If you work in the banking industry, she wants to destroy your employer's livelihood and send the CEO and all of the top leadership of your company packing and put in some ne'er-do-wells, numbskulls, do-nothings, people who don't know jack-ola about making a business run. She wants to put those people in charge so they can run the company that you work for in the ground. Cadillac insurance plan, gone. The money that you're getting as a bonus that you're using to put your kids in private school or in college or that you're funding your vacation with, forget it. All those stock options that they lured you away from your last company with to get you a job here, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. She's got a problem with all of it. Elizabeth Warren is probably the best candidate to run against Donald Trump because she is so polarizing, and she has no chance if Donald Trump runs the same campaign he ran last time, but even better. She has no chance of winning over the very people she should be attracting because she hates industries, entire industries. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I want to get to this open letter that I mentioned, but first, I want to give you the call lines. If you want to call in, hey, it's Friday. I'm loving chatting with you. Thank you to everyone who's putting in the comments on all the different live streams. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for sharing the show. Happy Friday. If you're just tuning in, it's Friday here on the Stacey on the Right Show, here on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk. We're loving it. We're loving it. We're loving it. So the call lines are 866-963-2037, 866-963-2037. So I was just minding my own business, and I got this letter, an open letter to the president, and it's from a friend of mine, Doug Ross. He runs the website directorblue.blogspot.com. And so I'm going to read the first part of the letter to you, but I encourage you to, actually, I'll post the link on Stacey on the Right, and you can go there and click through, or you can go to directorblue.blogspot.com yourself and check it out. It's an open letter to the president, how you can take the fight to the deep state. And the reason I can't read the whole letter to you is because he actually did some hardcore research and pulled up some stuff that we've all forgotten, all of the criminality. We've probably forgotten more about the Clintons than any other family in public life ever, because they've been in public life for so long and they've done so many wrong things. He starts off, and he actually sent this out in email and said, look, I don't have the president's ear, but if you do, get this to him. He needs to see this, because this is, in my opinion, an ingenious way of getting this conversation back to where it belongs, because right now we only have a special prosecutor prosecuting Republicans, anybody who's affiliated with Donald Trump. And if you're a Democrat and you've done wrong, you're getting away with it. You're skating wide and free. So he says, Dear President Trump, I know you are courageous. I know you are a patriot. I know you care deeply about the future of this nation. Therefore, I have addressed this request to you and you alone. As is well known, the tangled web of the federal bureaucracy and national media have produced an embedded administrative state that some term the deep state. Through administrations of both parties in good times and bad, the size and scale of the federal Leviathan has grown completely unchecked. And like a living organism, it has over time developed its own survival instinct. Among its defensive tactics are the collective set of crimes known as Spygate, which represents the weaponization of Obama intelligence and law enforcement agencies against you. Starting in 2015, deep state actors embedded in the CIA, DOJ, DNI, and FBI leadership positions launched simultaneous campaigns more suitable for a South American dictatorship than the United States. He then goes on to outline how it was Hillary Clinton getting exonerated and all of the things that were done to prevent President Trump from winning the presidency, and then the scheme to have him impeached or removed from office. And then he talks about taking the Clintons to the woodshed, basically, and the deep state. He talks about the Cox report, which was issued in 1999, and he talks about the Barrett report, which is a 400-page document created by Special Prosecutor David Barrett, who was initially tasked with investigating allegations of lying to the FBI against Henry Cisneros, Secretary of the U.S. Department of HUD, under U.S. President Bill Clinton. I encourage you to read this letter. Share it with whoever you can find. And then pray that the president would actually see it and take action. He needs all of these tips from all of us all over the place. He needs it. He needs these tips. And I just think it's brilliant of Doug Ross to write this letter and to do the research and to come up with this. And the president needs to see this. Please share it widely. I'll have it on Stacey on the Right Show on Facebook, where you can easily click through the link. And so now we'll go to the phones. You know what? It's Friday, y'all. Anything you want, anything. Let's go to Kathy in Benton, Arkansas. Kathy, happy Friday. Thanks for calling the show.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
Well, I am calling because the program that was before you, I did not hear who was speaking because I was working and I didn't catch the name, but when they were having their meetings this afternoon, and then the lady came on and she was talking about how the president, they were not going to give in to the president for the wall, that he would have to drop that, and then they could negotiate, because the president then would use that for any time he wanted his way. But let's not forget that he ran for president and won with the idea that the people wanted him to build that wall. So it's not his wall. It's the wall for the people that they wanted, that we voted him in for. And it's the people's wall. It's not his.
It is. That is just a marketing tactic, calling it Trump's wall, and he did run on it. And I know if you're talking about Nancy Pelosi and her insistence that he can't have the money for the wall, it's not for him. It's not for the president. It's for the wall is for the protection of the southern border and for the family of that police officer who was killed by an illegal immigrant. I mean, every day we hear about a new heinous crime that's committed by some illegal who should have been deported. Absolutely, you're right, and I'm hoping that they're going to follow through on that. When I say they, it takes the Republican Party to stand up behind President Trump for him to get this done. I hate seeing him stand up there by himself. I hate that. I wish that we could get more Republicans to stand up with him. But, if needs be, Donald Trump will be like David was when he was running on the run from King Saul, and he was on his own, and he had to do what he had to do, and he made mistakes, but he stood there. He withstood the onslaught so that he could go on to be the king himself. So we just have to keep praying for the president. Keith in Pleasantville, Pennsylvania. Thanks for calling the show today.
Hey, great show. I was wondering, why do you think no conservative talk show, Fox News, has questioned any Democrat as to why none of them opposed the $150 billion plane load of cash to Iran? You never heard a negative word from any Democrat about that, but they're all unanimous in complaining about the $5 billion to build a security wall. That is so outstanding, and I think it would resonate if Republicans and conservatives would start asking the left that question. Why did they not oppose that plane load of cash? And second of all, wouldn't it be neat if Fox News, every time they're in the studio, you could see on the wall the debt clock? So every day we got a reminder of where we are in debt, how much out of bounds our budget is, and how much we're borrowing per minute, per hour, per day, and what we're paying in interest on that debt. 99% of the public has no clue, but we need a daily reminder of that. And I would encourage anyone listening to Fox, get on the phone, try to get them to put that in the background on the wall behind every show they do from the studio, so we had that constant reminder of where we're at. And you become a slave to your debtor, as Scripture says.
Oh, it sure does. It says that, and the debtor is slave to the lender. That is the truth. It's not just biblical, it's the truth. Keith, thank you so much. Pleasantville, Pennsylvania. That's such a cute town. Thank you for calling the show. I got to say, so he's right. And I think some of what we see with Fox News, and, you know, full disclosure, I usually go on Fox Business. And there's, Fox is the biggest. They are the best ratings-wise. But they are susceptible to the kind of brutal mockery that they're subjected to from the leftist media, who are jealous of their loyal following. They're jealous of Fox's ratings, and they're jealous of the quality of people that are over at Fox. But they're susceptible to, you know, sometimes they'll say, oh, Fox News is acting like Breitbart, or Fox News is acting like the you know, paid media apparatus of the president. Like they don't operate and are not the paid media apparatus of the Democrats. So I don't know why they don't put the debt clock up, and it may very well be that at some point in Fox's history they did have the debt clock up, but it's worth reaching out. It's worth saying, hey, you know what, Fox News, we'd love to see the debt clock. They are responsive, and they do listen to you know, their television viewer base. So reach out, let them know. I know some liberals watch Fox. I'd like to see the debt clock up there, but I would more like to see them simply cover the immigration issue as a daily thing, where they have the immigration images, the numbers about the people who are entering illegally. And like the caller said, have Democrats on and ask them to explain, how does 55,000 people jumping the line help America? What about the death of this person? You know, really ask these people some tough questions. I've been on panels with Democrats on Fox Business, and they do ask tough questions, but a lot of the Democrats are regulars, just like, you know, sometimes at some point I was almost a regular on CNN a little bit there. And when you come back often on Fox, they're kind of friendly to you. And I'm not against that, but I just think sometimes being friendly precludes the tougher questions. So I don't know. Look, if you're leaving now, God bless you from the Heartland citizens. You're at home. And thank you for being here. If you're sticking around, we'll be right back after these messages. God bless. Keep it here.
Urban Family Talk. Urban Family Talk.
Hey, I'm Miki, co-host of Aaron the Addisons on Urban Family Talk. I want to invite you to be part of our online chat community we've affectionately called The Churbin. While you listen to your favorite programs, you have the opportunity to communicate in real time with the hosts of those programs and other Urban Family listeners. Find out what the talk is all about. Become a Churbinite at urbanfamilytalk.com.
Truth, wisdom, empowerment. Urban Family Talk, a ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. President Trump met with top Democrats and Republicans today to continue negotiations on ending the partial government shutdown. Speaking to reporters at the White House Rose Garden, President Trump said it was a great meeting.
We had a productive meeting today with Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer. I thought it was really a very, very good meeting. We're all on the same path in terms of wanting to get government open.
Speaker Pelosi doesn't see it that way. Senator Schumer called the meeting contentious.
He made a plea to the president once again. Don't hold millions of Americans, hundreds of thousands of workers hostage. Open up the government and let's continue the discussions.
More on the partial government shutdown at onenewsnow.com. A federal appeals court has handed the Trump administration a victory in the fight over the Pentagon's transgender policy. Fox's Rachel Sutherland reports from Washington.
U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit says a lower court judge was wrong to block the Defense Department from implementing its policy restricting service by transgender people. But the decision from the three-judge panel does not allow the policy to go into effect because 3 other judges have ruled against the administration. The Justice Department has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to take up the issue, but the High Court has not announced whether it will do so. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
North Carolina's 9th Congressional District still has no seated representative as investigations continue into voting improprieties in that election. The state has yet to certify the election night results showing a hairline Republican victory. Fox's Evan Brown has more.
Complaints of ballot fraud have stained the victory of Republican Mark Harris in the North Carolina 9th Congressional District. A campaign consultant is accused of absentee ballot harvesting. Harris wants a judge to certify that he won by fewer than 1,000 votes.
So, again, our goal is to get certified by the state of North Carolina, and we're in the process of doing that. And without a state board of elections, we are doing that through the courts.
A judge dissolved the state elections board. A new one won't convene until the end of the month. House Democratic leaders in D.C. won't seat Harris until the election is certified. Evan Brown, Fox News.
One of the most powerful city council members in Chicago history is facing federal extortion charges for allegedly trying to shake down a Burger King restaurant. Fox's Jeff Manasso has this food for thought.
A 27-page complaint lays out how the FBI tracked emails and wiretapped phones to show that Alderman Ed Burke used his position to steer business to his private law firm. The powerful Chicago Democrat accused of withholding a remodeling permit for a Burger King restaurant because Burke's law firm didn't get the company's tax work. Burke's lawyer saying,
"The transaction described in the indictment in the complaint does not make out extortion or an attempt to extort. We look forward to a prompt day in court."
If convicted, the 75-year-old alderman faces up to 20 years in prison in Chicago. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
The longtime alderman is also resigning from the City Council's Finance Committee amid the scandal. The U.S. economy added 312,000 jobs last month. Numbers for November and October were also revised upward. Still, Dan Celia of Financial Issues says that's not the best part.
The best part of it is we've got a 3.9% unemployment rate because so many people came back into the workforce. It's up 2 ticks. That's almost 1 million people back into the workforce. How good is that? It's a very exciting number in the midst of all of the garbage that's going on.
And in final news this hour, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline is $2.25 on this, the first full weekend of January. That's the lowest national average on this date since 2016. Find more news at onenewsnow.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and the One News Now mobile app for Apple and Android devices.
Pastor D.
The Back to God movement always reminds people that we got to know who we are and whose we are. And we are children of the Most High God. Made in His image and likeness. That's what Genesis 1:26 says. Made in His image and likeness. So that means that Yeshua could walk on water, guess what? We can too.
Each weekday at 4 o'clock Central on Urban Family Talk. And let's get back to God. She's sharp, pointed, and insightful. This is Stacey on the Right on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
He was endorsing me. I wasn't endorsing him. And I haven't decided who I'm going to endorse in 2020. I'm going to wait and see what the alternatives are. But I've pointed out there are places where we agree on a whole series of policy fronts.
I get along fine with the president, but I do have policy disagreements. I have not been afraid ever to challenge the president. In fact, if you look at the voting records, I am more independent than any other Republican in the Senate, but yet I keep good relations with the president because I respect the office, I respect the president, Donald Trump, and I try to work with them to try to get good things done for the country and for my state.
The people of this country elected us to work. It is time the Democrats got to work. Stop with the partisanship. Stop focusing on 2020. You listen, Brian, it's like, everybody around here is focused on 2020 and the Democrats running for president. They need to do their jobs right now.
And now, Stacey Washington.
Yes, it's the new year, and we're back live and direct to you on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk. Yes, that's what we're doing here right now. It's the Christian worldview and news and information, politics, culture, and anything else in between, and always your calls. So I have so much stuff today. If you're watching the live stream, I'm just going to give you, this is not even my whole group of things that I was able to locate. And we are going to be having our fantastic guest this hour. We have Peter Roff. He's a columnist, and he's going to talk a little bit about this Romney op-ed. And the reason I feel like this is still something to kind of pick over, if you will, is that Mitt Romney is obviously setting a tone for something. Now, it occurred to me yesterday, I was battling some traffic, coming back from my long adventure at the emergency room. And as I was driving along, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Mitt Romney sees himself as this fine, upstanding individual, someone who would never, be insulting to someone else. And he just comes from a different cut of wool, if you will, than the president. He's not a street fighter. And he really takes the temperature, put the finger in the wind and see which way it's blowing. And then you kind of go that way. He was fine with getting the president's endorsement. He was also fine with calling the president a con man. He has flip-flopped on Trump so many times. Now, saying that, we acknowledge that President Trump has also been friend and foe with people. He doesn't mind ripping you a new one and then being your friend. That is not a problem for President Trump, candidate Trump, etc. But it is a little interesting to see Mitt Romney expect us to take him seriously with his op-ed and all of that. Before he's even sworn in as a junior senator, he's already trying to make waves and kind of trying to, pick up the mantle of John McCain and other rhinos extraordinaire. And I don't care if you love John McCain. You know what? You have a right to your feelings, and you have a right to love and respect that man. And if he's your hero, God bless you. But I'm talking about how he voted. I am not talking about anything other than how that man not just voted incorrectly, but corrupted others into voting incorrectly. If you want to be a Democrat, go be a Democrat. Notice the Democrats don't have a whole bunch of people in their caucus that regularly cross the aisle to work with the Republicans. Have you noticed that? It's only the Republicans who have this huge problem with electing people and sending them to D.C. only to have those people go cross arms and link arms with the Democrats, and they make friends with them and start eating with them and showing up in the cafeteria and talking about my friend across the aisle and my good friend this and that. And before you know it, all the bootlicking has commenced and they're voting with the Democrats. Notice Democrats don't have a problem with that. And that's what I'm talking about. I don't care if you want to be a Democrat beyond the fact that you're probably going to hell. Sorry, not sorry. But you just go be a Democrat then. Don't come over to the Republican side and run as a Republican and try to make yourself sound all conservative and like you like the platform. And then as soon as you get to D.C., put some dumb op-ed out about how the president, although he's accomplished all of these fantastic things, he's a morally inferior person, like you are morally superior. If I'm remembering correctly, Mitt Romney, who is the husband to one wife, grandfather to many, and has other things in his personal backstory and his accomplishments that are very commendable, also oversaw investments that put dollars into Stericycle, an organization that exists to dispose of aborted fetal remains. So, I mean, before you address yourself to the speck in Donald Trump's eye, why don't you address the beam in your own eye, Mittens? First, pick yourself up, and I don't care where you have to go. I don't care how far you have to travel. Find a spine. Find a steel spine. And then once you've got that, installed and you can stand up straight of your own volition and you don't need to be carried by Utah or any other voters you've carpet-bagged your way into, then you can probably say, you know what? I don't like this or I don't like that. But until then, if you are just going to be a spineless, wimpy, kind of faux Democrat, why should we listen to you? And I'm not the only one who feels this way. Rand Paul was asked about this op-ed. And I felt like he had a really measured response because, yeah, it was kind of measured compared to what I just said. So here's number 3.
Well, you know, there is a big danger that the government shut down and no one notices. And in the past, the shutdowns have always been, or a lot of them have been with a Democrat president, and they do everything possible, like closing down overpasses, closing down empty parking lots, closing down the World War II Memorial, which has no attendant or no cost to keep open. This time they're not doing that, and so it's not quite as noticeable. Plus, 75% of the government's already funded, including the military. So there is a chance nobody notices. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to leave the government closed, so I think there could be a compromise. But lost in all of this about the wall is the Democrats' position right now is $0 for the wall. Every one of them voted for $25 billion for a wall last year. So certainly there is some kind of compromise to be had. If the president's asking for $5 billion and the Democrats are 0, certainly somewhere in between the two there can be a compromise made.
Okay, I'm sorry. I told you guys that was about Mitt Romney. There he's talking about the wall funding and this whole fiasco with the Democrats. And that was actually excellent audio from him. But now he's going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Mitt Romney, I believe. This is Rand Paul 2. It's cut 4.
Why is he out there calling the president dishonest? I think that's when you attack someone's character like that, I think that's such a low blow and so personally directed and so malevolent that it's not something like, oh, we're going to, someone's going to change their character. He's now called his character dishonest. And I think that's a bad way for him to start in the Senate because I think it's going to spoil relations between his representation of Utah and the president.
So, because here's the thing, and I am nobody's saint, but it just occurs to me when I was elected to my teensy-weensy little position as a school board member, that one of the things I took so seriously, I remember talking to my husband about it in our kitchen, and I'd just been elected, and I'd served an appointment for 11 months, then ran and lost and came back and ran unopposed, and so I'm elected. And my husband was like, now that you're elected and you've got the full mantle and you're going in there on behalf of the constituents of the school district, what do you like, what is your aim? I know what you have in mind, but what is your chief aim you're going in there to do? And I said, it just hits me like a ton of bricks because I've gotten so many nice cards and letters. Like immediately after winning, I got so many nice cards and letters from people who said, thank you so much for running, and we're so behind you. And I hope you just continue to do the things you did when you were a volunteer, represent us. And I thought to myself, when I was reading their cards and letters, I can't forget this moment. I can't forget how nice it is to have these people sending me here. I can't believe that these notes and cards and everything this is time they took out of their day to write me and then put it in an envelope and then put a stamp on it and put it in their mailbox and raise a little red flag or drop it off at a post office. I've got to remember this so that when I get there and these others start pressuring me, I've got to remember these people sent me to that school board for a reason. And so, sent me, well, I was still living at home, obviously, and sent me, I'm just going to these meetings twice a month in the district office building, the administrative office building, but it was still a big, big deal. And so when I think about the comparison between that and the amount of money that we were, overseeing a budget for and the number of administrators and the responsibilities that we had, and then I compare it to these people who are working in the Senate and the sheer number of people they're representing. Only 2 senators per state. So half of the people of Utah sent this man there. All of the people voted, but he represents, half the state, 2 senators. Come on. How can his first act out the gate be something self-serving like this? How can it be that this man thinks that instead of working on issues that are specific to the state of Utah or issues that impact the entire country that Utahns sent him there to represent them on, it's his job to take the president on and to down talk him and address him? People in his state that sent him to the Senate also voted for President Trump. And there isn't anybody who voted for Donald Trump who didn't know what they were getting. It's not like you woke up one day and you were in some kind of weird time distortion. If you watch sci-fi, you know what I'm talking about. You just were 1 second, you were just living your life and Barack Obama was president. And then the next second, you woke up or you turned around a corner or you opened your front door, and instead of being still Barack Obama's the president, it's the end of his presidency, and Donald Trump's just been elected, and all you had was like the day before you just voted. That's not how this thing works. Everyone knew going in that they were electing a street fighter, someone who would rather eat McDonald's cheeseburgers than lobster and, beef bourguignon. The man can have any meal he likes, and he prefers McDonald's. The man could be flying around in that ridiculous, if you've ever seen a picture of that helicopter he used to fly around in, that was his main mode of transportation. And you compare that to the way he's living now. He took a step down to be the president. I'm talking about luxury-wise. I'm talking about freedom-wise. And remember, he was super popular before he said, you know what, I am really running this time. I'm not just playing around. I'm running as a Republican, and immigration is my issue. Before he made that first statement, every rap star has to drop the name Donald Trump in their rap music. Just check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. He couldn't have been in a better position personally, popularity-wise, all of it. And his wife and his daughter, Ivanka, very popular online social media, former models. His son, led a private lifestyle, was going to a school where he was extremely popular, and his last name wasn't an expletive. This is absolutely not a shock when we see Donald Trump erupt or lose his temper or send out, tweets that maybe we just, it's just offends our sensibilities. No one should be shocked by this. And so I don't buy it that Mitt Romney, was watching the first 2 years of Trump's presidency and just, scratching his chin and, pondering, how could this be? How could Donald Trump speak this way? How could he send these kinds of tweets? My sweater vest feels tight. I don't know what to do. I'm flummoxed. I'm perplexed. I don't feel like I can have my beef bourguignon for dinner tonight. Do you believe that Mitt Romney has been surprised by the president's demeanor? He's literally fighting people tooth and nail for the right to govern our country as the elected president. Nancy Pelosi announced yesterday, upon her swearing back into the speakership, that she is equal to the president. Now, I don't know what kinds of books they taught civics in back when she was a girl, but as I remember it, we have the 3 co-equal branches of government, but the president is the commander-in-chief, not of the executive branch, but of the United States Armed Forces and the United States of America. He's not the commander-in-chief of Congress. He's not the commander-in-chief of Kabuki Land or Unicornville. He is the president of the entire country, meaning he heads up our whole government. Now, he's not all-powerful. The checks and balances are utilized to make sure that he doesn't operate our country like a dictatorship. And I think he's doing a pretty good job of navigating the murky waters of the swamp. But she is not equal in power to the president, because if that were the case, there would be a North Wing for the Speaker of the House at the White House, and then there'd be a South Wing for the Majority Leader in the Senate. Is that something I missed on my 6 individual White House tours, FBI agent tours? I've been there 6 times. I haven't seen any place for the Speaker of the House to dwell at the White House. I guess I'll just have to keep waiting for that to come up. When we get back, we're going to have Peter Roff. Stay right there.
Here's Walker Wildman for Redeem Clean Laundry Products.
Not only do you get a great product and you get to obviously clean your clothes, get the stains out and use the multi-surface cleaner to clean your countertops and use the dryer sheets. You're doing all of this and the money's going to support the work of American Family Association.
Redeem Clean Laundry Products were developed by AFA supporters Len Ingram and Jim Duncan to assist in funding the mission of the American Family Association. Redeem Clean products work as well as or better than other products on the market. They're environmentally safe, biodegradable, and they're made right here in the United States.
The great thing about Redeem Clean is not only is the product great, but it goes to support a great cause, and that is the work of American Family Association.
For clean laundry and a cleaner society, it's Redeem Clean. Visit redeemclean.afastore.net.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson.
Ashley Bradsher is an actress in the upcoming film Unplanned. The story in the film is powerful, but so is her personal story. The film will be out in March, and she tells about the conversion of Abby Johnson, who was a clinic director for Planned Parenthood and became a pro-life activist. Ashley auditioned for the part and considered herself pro-life, but admits she was certainly not an activist. However, as she read more about Abby Johnson and about Planned Parenthood, she was convicted and thrilled she got the part. When she got the call to play the role, she was told to pack for 7 weeks and be ready to leave in a few hours. It all happened so quickly she didn't have time to tell her family and friends why she left. So when her mother called, she hesitantly answered because of their strained relationship. When Ashley was in high school, her mother shared with her that she had an abortion when she was 16. 3 years later, she had Ashley. As Ashley began to tell her mother the story about Abby Johnson and Planned Parenthood, her mother fell apart. She said, "I need to tell you something I've never told you before." Through tears, she confessed, "I was going to abort you." In fact, she was on the table for abortion when she changed her mind. Ashley later called her father and asked if the story was true. He admitted that it was and added that they didn't have enough money for the abortion, so he pawned a shotgun to pay for the abortion. Ashley is so grateful that her mother believed her life was more valuable than the price of a pawned shotgun. Now she has a story to tell that's just about as powerful as the story she's telling about Abby Johnson in the upcoming movie Unplanned. When the film comes out, I encourage you to watch it and bring your friends. The story in the film is powerful, but so is the backstory of the actress in the film. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Take Kirby and the Point of View team with you on the go with the Point of View app. Search for Point of View Radio at the Apple or Google Play stores.
You can download episodes of Stacy on the Right from the podcast page on AFR.net or UrbanFamilyTalk.com. Now, back to the show on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Hey there. Welcome back to the program. So it's my pleasure to welcome my next guest who has been on the show before, and he's one of my favorites because he's never wrong, and he doesn't mince words about it, and I enjoy that kind of confidence and correctness. Being Stacy on the Right, that's actually rejuvenating to hear, and I'm specifically excited to speak with him about this. It's kind of crazy. We've got 2019. We're in it to win it. And the Democrats have taken back the House, which I've been yawning at their antics, but it's real. They're in control again. And so I want to get predictions from Peter for 2019. And I want to hear his take on Mitt Romney going full metal rhino with his op-ed. So Peter Roff, columnist and right person extraordinaire, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, Stacy, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm just like, I'm still flabbergasted that Mitt Romney took his sweater vest off and got all riled up and wrote that op-ed.
I'm not. I think it is classic Mitt Romney. He is not. He's not a populist. He is an elitist. He couldn't defeat Barack Obama in 2012. I think what's really distressing here is that he actually sought out President Trump's endorsement for the more enhanced Senate seat that he now occupies. President Trump was happy to comply. He endorsed Romney warmly, friendly, and then Romney goes off, and even before he's sworn in, pens a piece for the Washington Post, not the Salt Lake paper, but the Washington Post, the paper of the D.C. establishment, in which he attacks not what Trump is doing, but Trump's character, Trump's behavior, Trump the person, not Trump's policies, but Trump the person. And I just thought it was kind of a low blow. But it sets him up to be the new John McCain, and it'll get him on Meet the Press, and it'll get him in the newspaper. And, you know, some people define being effective by the number of times they get talked about in newspaper articles and on television.
Peter, are we to understand from that he couldn't have gotten on to meet the press as a junior senator from Utah and former presidential candidate without going here? Like, this is where he had to go to get that?
It's a guarantee of getting there. Just like this new congresswoman from Michigan, Shabab, who the first Palestinian American in Congress, who at a rally talked about impeaching the MFer, only she filled in the blanks. And now everybody's talking about her. Or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new congresswoman from New York, who is a ubiquitous presence on social media, is given to antics that are not within the mainstream of what we expect from U.S. politicians, left or right, and then goes on and complains about people treating her like she's treating her funny because she's different. She wants to be talked about, and because they've learned an important lesson that in the social media culture, the people that get talked about are the people that get to drive the agenda.
So let's talk just briefly, Peter. I know you've probably maybe even sick of this topic, but I have to bring it up. There's this audio clip of Mitt Romney saying that he's not going to challenge the president for the primary in 2020. He's not angling to be the president of the United States. But a lot of people, back channel and online, the comments sections everybody's rife with these speculations that Mitt Romney still wants to be the president. He can't believe he lost, and he is going to try to sabotage President Trump's reelection bid.
I think Romney still wants to be president. I don't think that's a bug that goes away easily. I think that Romney's not going to be president. I think he knows he's not going to be president. So if he can't be the president, picking the president may be the next best thing. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world for Trump if the next 2 years come down to for the president an ongoing battle between Trump and Romney, because he played he played mittens like a cat with a fresh mouse back when he was considering him ostensibly for Secretary of State. And if Romney occupies the position of chief opponent to the president on the right, it prevents somebody who possibly could have a more effective message from taking that position. So it's not all downside for Trump. People demonstrate that they just get tired of Romney.
Yeah, I'm already tired of him.
So much of him.
I'm already tired of him. I actually was not looking forward to him going. I hoped that the people of Utah would not send him because he really hadn't been living in Utah in a while, and it felt like carpetbagging. And I know that Mitt Romney has a gaggle of grandkids, and it's perfectly fine for someone to run unsuccessfully for the presidency and then go into the private life after having been a governor and all of that. And I actually had hopes that he would do that because I felt I could respect him a great deal if he did. And now that he's decided that politics just can't live without him, I'm exhausted by this continual, he just has this need to be in front of the camera. And I'm just like everybody else, Peter, I like going on Fox and MSNBC and everywhere else. I like doing those things, but I'm also not forcing myself into the public arena. I only go on when I'm asked. He seems to have this need to gin up some kind of story that would then put him out front so people can ask him what he thinks, like he's equal to the president. And I'm sorry, he's just not.
Well, he's taking advantage of the fact that the left likes to promote, the left within the media culture likes to promote a certain kind of Republican candidate or a certain kind of Republican that the Republican Party didn't make John McCain the face of opposition to George W. Bush, and the Republican Party didn't make Mitt Romney the face of opposition to Donald Trump any more than they made Bob Corker or Jeff Flake, two failed and now retired senators. the opposition. The New York Times and CNN did that. I don't know if anyone who follows Romney with the same kind of passion and devotion that they support Trump policies. I didn't really know anybody who followed John McCain with the same kind of passion and devotion that they may have felt towards George W. Bush.
I don't think there is anybody, Peter. I wasn't excited to vote for him. I voted for him because obviously I didn't want President Obama. I got to say that there's also an element of him being used, but he doesn't recognize it. Like, you know, it's worse than being a patsy.
Or he doesn't mind.
Well, yeah.
You know, I don't know which is worse. If he's ignorant or he's apathetic. He doesn't know or he doesn't care.
Yeah. And also, I got to bring it up. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to, but in the comments over the YouTube stream, someone mentioned that, remember when Mitt had Obama on the ropes and he eviscerated him at that debate, and then after that he let up? It's like he gave up. And not only did Obama come back from that, but then someone brought out the binders of women thing, and they totally destroyed his opportunity to be the president. No one did that to Mitt Romney. He did that to himself.
Yeah, well, Mitt Romney did not run a very smooth or effective campaign. He could not establish a connection with the American electorate. You know, and Obama is one of the few presidents who was reelected with fewer votes than he won getting elected. Usually, reelected presidents build on their mandates. I think Obama was beatable. I think Obama was beatable when, if he had been opposed by a conservative who offered a clear contrast to Obama. But Romney never appeared to have the courage to pull the trigger on any of the things that he said he believed. I mean, and that was kind of clear in the debate.
Mm-hmm. It was. And also he was what is President Trump calls them choke artists. When people get to the point where you're going to win, you got the opponent down, and then you just choke. That's what he did, and we did not need him as president. It was better for us to have Obama, someone we clearly could oppose, than to have a rhino like Mitt Romney in there. I'm
not sure I can endorse it, go so far as to endorse that, but I would. I think Romney would have signed tax cuts, and he would have signed reforms, and he would have done the things asked of him of a Republican-controlled Congress. But I don't know that you would have had any bold, brave initiatives. I imagine Mitt Romney is the guy trying to tinker with Obamacare to make it work, rather than Donald Trump coming in and saying, throw this thing on the junk pile. Let's start again. And we came within one vote of doing that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll see where it goes. I want to look forward. I want to look ahead. I don't know when the government's going to reopen. Donald Trump is sticking to his guns on refusing to move forward on anything that doesn't include at least some funding for the wall. And Nancy Pelosi is sticking to her guns and saying no money for the wall at all. I don't know how you get the compromise that anyone can live with out of that, although Trump is now putting Dreamers on the table, saying he's willing to consider a fix to the Dreamer problem, which I think most Americans would support.
I know plenty of Americans who wouldn't, but if it was the wall and the end to chain migration, then sure, they'd support. Like, I'm willing to horse trade for it. I'll never support it as in it's my idea, but definitely if it's horse trading, then fine. Put the 700,000 on there, put a cap on it.
I think when you put it to people, look, we're talking about people who were brought to the United States by their parents who had no choice in the matter, and they've been good students, and they're good citizens, and they play by the rules. That if we want to make some kind of an exception for this class of illegal immigrants, you know, they didn't come here by choice. They were brought here. They played by the rules. They're trying to be good American citizens. They're exactly the kind of people you want to be American citizens. I think most Americans would be willing to accept that, particularly if it included wall funding or stepped-up border security. End to chain migration, I think, is possible. I don't think it's possible right now. I think it's possible maybe next year. But you know, the Democrats are trying to bring in guest voters.
They are. They're already doing it in California. So now that we're on that tack, I'm interested in your predictions for 2019 under Leader Pelosi, who she's never met a hand she's not willing to overplay, and she's one of their more moderated, public figures in the Democrat side. Now that Ocasio-Cortez and her generation of Democrats is now rising to power, they're socialists, but they're coming in under the Democrat mantle. What's about to happen, Peter? What do you see happening? Because I've seen people on the right saying, well, now the president's going to get impeached. I'm like, so what? Bill Clinton was impeached and he stayed in office. If this is the game we have to play to get stuff done, then fine, let's play it. But while they're impeaching the president, we have some things that we can do through the Senate Judiciary Panel to fight back against these Democrats who have also broken the law.
I think they'll focus on judges. I think they'll focus on reforms within the government that the president does not have to go to Congress to get approval for. I think that Nancy Pelosi will try to frustrate that at every level. You have to remember, there are no moderates left in the Democratic Party. There are liberals and there are leftists. And Nancy Pelosi is a leftist. She used to define the left-wing fringe of the Democratic Party. You're right that there are people out now beyond where she is, but even if her style appears to be a little bit more moderate, her policies are not. It's liberals and leftists in the Democratic Party, and America is still a center-right nation. So I think they're in for a big surprise. I'm shocked that this 70% tax that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is proposing, or up to 70% tax, has not been shot down by Pelosi and Schumer and others as a non-starter. If they are that wedded to the left-wing base, that they have to go, that they can't knock down an idea of doubling the tax code. And I checked the disbursement tables earlier today on what that would do to my taxes, and it would increase them significantly to the point where I would have to make significant changes in my life, in my lifestyle.
Well, and you know what? And I think
America's not going to put up with it.
No, and absolutely not. Even Will Smith heard about the French proposing a 75% tax and said, I could not deal with that. And he's a hardcore liberal himself, out of Hollywood, no less. So thank you so much for the predictions and for the fantastic commentary today, Peter. Happy Friday to you. Talk to you again soon.
Happy Friday. Talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks. That was Peter Roff, columnist and extraordinaire expert for the show. Guess what, guys? We have one more segment left after this, so you keep it here. We'll be right back. This is Just a Minute with Stacey Washington. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission, convened to investigate the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida, has issued their findings in a 447-page report. Shocking most, the panel of 14 voted 13-1 to arm Parkland teachers to protect against future attacks. You heard that right. The majority is convinced that a large percentage of teachers at the school should be trained and armed. School safety advocates have been clamoring for this for years. Some schools and universities now allow concealed carry by staff and students, but not enough. No one wants to consider the possibility of a violent criminal shooting at their child's school, but wisdom stands in the gate. It can happen, and being prepared saves lives. It's frankly horrifying that evil people can freely kill without resistance. Let's arm the teachers. There must be no safe place for evil, especially in our schools. I'm Stacey Washington. Find out more at stacyontheright.com.
Life is never picture perfect. Human beings come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and abilities. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we think we're prepared, the unplanned happens all the time. It's how we respond to the unexpected that shows our true humanity. But many do not see the value of every human life. Too many are willing to discard those who don't fit the picture of perfection. Abortion destroys the chance to love and to be loved. We never know what will fill the frames of our lives, or how empty those frames can be when we allow exceptions.
Every life is a gift.
Learn more at www.radiance.life.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
An Army veteran reunited with his dog makes the Dean's List. Matthew Kropp of Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, waited nervously inside the country cupboard near Lewisburg for a reunion that was long overdue. Mr. Kropp was set to reunite with his former military dog, Tina. The pair spent years together in Iraq, protecting the United States Embassy, but they were separated last December because of Tina's age. Mr. Kropp says seeing Tina for the first time in a year was exactly what he was hoping for.
She remembers me, and we still got the tight bond that we had before we got separated.
Canine Hero Haven has adopted more than 200 military dogs since 2015, placing them with handlers and other combat veterans. Mr. Kropp, who celebrated his birthday, will have to go back to Iraq in the next few weeks, but thanks to Canine Hero Haven, Tina will stay with Mr. Kropp's wife and 2 children. Thank you, Matthew Kropp, for sharing your story with us. Janice Dean, Fox News.
This is Stacy on the Right with Stacy Washington on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
Do you believe the special counsel should honor and observe the Department of Justice guidance that states a sitting president cannot be indicted?
I do not think that that is conclusive. No, I do not.
So you think it's possible that Special Counsel Mueller could legally indict a sitting president?
Let's just see what Mueller does. Let's spend our time on getting results for the American people.
As you well know, there is long-standing Department of Justice guidance that states a sitting president should not be indicted. But it is not the law.
That is not the law. Everything indicates that a president can be indicted after he is no longer president of the United States.
What about a sitting president?
Well, sitting president when he's no longer president of the United States.
A president who is in office. Okay. Could Robert Mueller come back and say, I am seeking an indictment?
I think that that is an open discussion. I think that is an open discussion in terms of the law.
Backed into a corner, Nancy Pelosi gives the interviewer what she wants, which is, some red meat to put on the table for Democrats last night. People who the sound of the words impeach Donald Trump actually gets their blood pumping, and they're able to sit down to their meal and survive another day in Trump's America. Notice how when we were all sitting back in shock and horror as President Obama flouted the law and used his pen and phone to do everything he could to subvert the laws of this country and to end run around Congress, which he was shellacked, lost the Congress. Why? Because American voters didn't like what he was doing. They didn't like him evolving on social issues. They didn't like his wife changing their kids' lunches. They didn't like the command and control structure of the Obama administration. So the American people sent Republicans to both houses of Congress. And what did Obama do? He just used his pen and phone to get around it. And at not one point did any Republican say, well, Fast and Furious sounds like he needs to be impeached. Green energy debacle, paying his friends to run these shell sham companies and take the American taxpayers' dollars through this infrastructure, big spending infusion of cash. Sounds like impeachment to me. He's bowing and scraping and sending pallets of cash to Iran. Sounds like impeachment to me. There were many opportunities for the Republicans to say, you know what? This time it's war. We're going to impeach you. There were many times when that could have happened. And most of us were like, don't you dare. Don't you try to impeach that man. Let him serve out his presidency. Not because, and for me, I'm black, so I don't care that Barack Obama was black. That is the least of my concerns. I didn't want him impeached because I knew it would be a nightmare for the Republicans, because Americans want to see the person they elect serve out their term unless they've killed somebody or something horrible has happened abroad and they've done dereliction of duty. Americans want the person they've elected to serve out their term and to run for re-election and to be either beaten or re-elected. That's what Americans want to see. And, you know, Peter Roff said last segment, America is still a center-right nation. It is. And you know how I know it is? Because I know there's some Democrat out there who just jerked their neck to attention like, what did she... yeah, it is. You know how I know it is? Because most of the Democrats that I meet are married, living in the suburbs or living in some, you know, area of the city that they're revitalizing. They're living traditional lifestyles. Most of them, if they're not going to church actively, they still consider themselves to be Christians. You know, they're sending their kids to a Catholic school or parochial school or some kind of Christian school, or they're sending their kids to public school, but they're reading their kids the Bible at night. You know, I don't agree with the Democrat Party platform and their allegiance to the death god of abortion. I don't agree with their worshiping lawlessness and trying to force by shoehorn or hook or crook every illegal citizen anywhere on the planet. They just want them all to come in here. But when you meet everyday Democrats who aren't activists, they are not that different from the Republicans that I know, at least not the married ones. Now, the single ones, that's a different show. That's a whole 2-3 segments to talk about how different life is for people who are single in America and how they gravitate towards the Democrats because they need someone to help take care of them. The women especially. If you're not married to a man, then you're going to be married to the government. Because in today's America, working on your own, if you're not well educated and you haven't made every decision correctly and you're not just completely blessed in your career endeavors, and even then, you know, there are a lot of things that are sad. Single women in their 30s and 40s who really want to be married but are feminists, and so they wouldn't know a good man if he smacked them upside the face with a brick. These are the unhappy chicks that you meet, constantly screaming about shouting abortions and how all men are a part of the patriarchy. A man is a part of the patriarchy until he says he loves you, will you marry me, and gets down on one knee with something sparkly. Then he's no longer a member of the patriarchy. He's your man. All of a sudden, all that feminist stuff, you're going to try to put at least some of it down. You're going to try to put a sweet face on for a little while before you dupe that man into marrying you, and so he can realize that you can't cook, you have no homemaking skills, and you don't know nice words. You've never heard them and you can't speak them. It's not a language you know. What men are looking for is not someone who will compete with them every day and make them feel inferior and put them down. Men are looking for a helpmeet. And women, the ones I know who want to get married, they'll never go on CNN and say it, but they're looking for a man to take care of them, to care for their feelings and their personal aspirations. They're looking for a man who wants to make a family. They want to have children who look like the husband and who look like them. They want to start, you know, teaching those kids how to celebrate Christmas and celebrate Easter and, you know, go to school and do this and do that and play soccer. And they want someone to be with them. And men want that too. But more often than not nowadays, you see all these single people living, single women, single men, and the ones who are shacking up, that's not a long-term arrangement. If you shack up, you're basically saying we're together until someone better comes along. It's when you marry that you're saying we're together forever, come, you know, HE-double hockey sticks or high water, we're together. And you see these men going their own way. They have their own movement called MGTOW, and they're going their own way because these men are saying, you know what, these ultra aggressive G.I. Jane type chicks who they can't cook, they can't do anything to make a home. And I know a lot of the millennial men, they grew up in households where they learned how to cook, just, you know, they learned how, so they know how to do it. And there are plenty of men out there who don't mind if a woman can't cook, but they still want someone who can help them make a home. And the natural bent of most men, stereotyping, it's fine, it's rooted in truth. The natural bent of most men is not to be the homemaker or they need a woman to help them with that. And the natural bent of most women is not to go out and earn all of the bread and then come home and completely make the home. There's not enough hours in the day. So you got to have some balance, and men are looking for the opposite of themselves. So someone who's soft, someone who's welcoming, someone who's not aggressive, someone who cares about the home, the making and keeping of the home, and someone who will work with them to build a life together. So not someone they can rule over or dominate. There's a bad apple in every bunch. So this isn't about that one bad apple. It's about the majority of men. And women, like myself, we have a son, my husband and I. We're not raising our son to want some super aggressive G.I. Jane chick. We are trying to show him through our marriage what a functioning, godly marriage looks like. And we're trying to just grow him up in the knowledge of the difference between these super aggressive types that are only concerned with their career and a woman who wants to put her husband and their marriage as a high priority in what she's doing, and that she understands that bond between the husband and the wife and God. So it's funny to me that we have, it's kind of a fascinating thing that everyone's celebrating Nancy Pelosi and her success. And, she's a grandma. She doesn't have kids at home anymore. And there's nothing wrong with women, achieving fantastic things in their careers and everything. But the way she lives and the things that she puts forward, it's typical Democrat. She has a very strong marriage with her husband. They've been married for decades. He's very supportive of her. She's very supportive of him. They're both very successful. And before she did all of this politicking, she was still running in political circles, but back then she was a mom. And so she raised the 4 children and then went out to do these fantastic things in the House of Representatives as an elected official and all the other things she's done. And so people look at her and they're like, Nancy Pelosi's paving the way for other women. Is she? Is she paving the way for other women to live a life that she didn't live herself, where you're young like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? She has a live-in boyfriend, I believe, but she's not married. She's starting off as the youngest elected member of the House of Representatives, and she's going to move to D.C. and live there. And there's nothing to say that she can't get married and have a baby and, make a home and still be an elected member of Congress. But is that what Nancy Pelosi did? And then we got a lot of misinformation going on where people are saying, well, she's a trailblazer. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's a trailblazer for women in the workplace. But she didn't start out in the workplace. And she didn't sacrifice raising her kids so that she could be the Speaker of the House. And she didn't give anything up. She got all of the benefits of being a wife and a mom, and she raised her kids, and then she went out and did all this stuff. But what will Ocasio-Cortez get out of her wrong-headed idea spouting and, just completely putting herself career first and political aspirations first? What's she going to get out of it? The same thing with Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, obviously, she is a lawyer. She was a law professor. She worked, but she also raised a family. She and her husband had kids. She did all that stuff. Now she's elected, and she jets back and forth between her home state and D.C., and it's not hurting any children. There isn't anybody for her to please except for her husband, and he's obviously resigned to the fact that she is a political animal, and that's the primary thing that she's going to do. I remember when Elizabeth Warren used to write books about how traditional families with a stay-at-home mom, that was actually a more financially beneficial prospect than having a 2-income household. She called her book The 2-Income Trap. If you want to know how much she's evolved and how corrupted by politics she has become, read Elizabeth Warren's book 2-Income Trap. I mean, I'm not saying she was ever a conservative or a Republican, but that book does not match up with the Elizabeth Warren we see today. There's some seeds and inklings there, but it's definitely not. You'll read it and think, Elizabeth Warren, this book doesn't sound like it was written by an American Indian at all. Okay, I'm sorry, but I just had to go there. And if you've missed the graphic that President Trump sent out on his Twitter feed, you should type in real Donald J. Trump, I think is his Twitter handle, and see he tweeted out this, it's a graphic, and I think it was created by someone over at the Daily Wire. and it says Warren, and it has like blue and red lines going across. So it's obviously a campaign sign. And it says 1/2020 TH, or TH. So 1/2020th. Which is why I say she is his most favorite candidate out of all the Democrats who will possibly be running. So anyway, look, don't get taken in by these people. The elected officials and, you know, all these ones, they're not leading the life of example that we're supposed to be like, oh, let me check out this politician and see if I can, you know, model my life after her. Or, you know, unless that's what you want. If you want to be single, you know, you want to put your politics before your personal satisfaction. But I know that yearning and that desire to, you know, to be fulfilled in life for women centers around family and children. And for some women, there are some who it centers around their career and all of that. But at some point, when the biological clock starts ticking, and sometimes I hate that, it's such an accurate descriptor, because for women, we have a certain window in which to bear children. And then after that, it's pretty much over for us. But for men, they can just keep making babies up, you know, on into the grave. But for women, when once all of these career aspirations have been attained, and then you realize your biological clock has just shut off, the bell is no longer ringing, there's nothing you can do, then it becomes really hollow, the accomplishments. Meanwhile, women who make and take advantage of that window of time when they're younger, where they can have the kids and then pursue career aspirations, because you can always go back to school, start a new career, open a business, figure something out that you want to do after you've had those precious babes. Then you have the rest of your life ahead of you in which to kind of arrange things in the way that you want, which is something that is unique to our culture. It's unique to America. When I read stories about Japan and people in Japan largely living alone, and their society is collapsing under the weight of the elderly people who are going on, and the younger people aren't having kids, they're not getting married, and everybody works, the women and the men, everyone achieves a career, they have a high suicide rate, and then the young people are not making kids, because who wants to get married and have kids when you can't afford, even one child is too expensive for a couple to have there. They don't have any immigration, which sounds fantastic, but they don't have anybody to, you know, help out with these families, to clean the house, et cetera, so they've got no options. America is where you can make the decision to have a family in your youth and raise up your babies with your husband, and then embark on a career that lasts 30 or 40 years after your kids are in high school or in college or out of the nest. Don't be fooled. It's just not worth it. The babies are the main thing. That's the main event, marriage and the kids. All right, happy Friday. Back with you on Monday. God bless you. Unplug, and I'll see you back here on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk on Monday. God bless.